Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm coming back at you with our Wargaming Wednesday live stream. In today's stream, I'm going to be working on these entrenchments here, but I just want to let you know that I'm still in the process of eating a Pop-Tart and drinking my drink, and this is just going to be a conversation, a little bit of model working. We're just going to have a good time. So if you're here for philosophical conversations, then you've come to the right place. Because I am all about philosophy. Game rule philosophy, player philosophy, streaming online, dice rolling philosophies. I'm into all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm just joshing with you guys. All right, so I primed these last night. I primed them twice, actually. I primed them black first, right? That was my intention, was to get them a complete thick, not thick, what am I mean? A complete coverage of black in between all the sandbags, boxes, the base, everything, right? So I primed them black, a couple light coats, and then I went over it with, I'm not going to call it a zenithal prime, because I hate that term, and I hate that lazy painting process. But I primed it brown, a dark brown actually, close to black. You can see how dark it is. I sprayed it kind of at a 45-degree angle, but from all four sides. And with enough prime, I think it pretty much covered everything. All right, so I've got these four little supply points that I'm going to work on as well today. But these three pieces right here, which are bases, this is a these are 2-figure bases, and this is a 3-figure base. I don't plan to work on these today. I'm not sure why I primed them. I think I was just getting excited and got out there and started priming stuff. Because normally what I'll do is I'll attach the figure to the base and then prime. Well, in this case, once I determine what figures are going on this base, maybe I'll prime them separately and then glue them into the base. I don't know. But I don't plan to work on these 3 bases today. Right. But I do plan to work on all of these. And I plan to eat my Pop-Tarts. I got my Warlord Games order in this week. A lot of cool models. But everything that's in that package, everything that was in that package, well, that's not really true. I guess some of the tufts I kept personally, but all the models went up on my store the very next day. So if you're interested in some Warlord Games stuff and you haven't been to my store, you should check it out, because I'm pretty much giving this stuff away. Okay, so I sprayed these last night, and I put them outside to dry, but it was raining really badly last night. It's raining today, actually. It's been raining for the last few days. When I went to go check on them to bring them into the house, they seemed like they were very sticky. like they weren't drying, because I had them out there for hours on end and they were still sticky. So I decided to bring them into the house and let them dry. And they seem like they're dry now. They seem like they're dry. But I was forward thinking. I was planning prime these the night before so that I'd be ready to work on them today. But they're awful shiny, right? You're seeing that on camera, right? They're like super shiny, which I don't have a problem with, because once I finish painting it, it's going to be flat as hell. But then I'll just go over them with a dull coat anyway, so it's no big deal. I'm not worried about the shininess. My base coats or primer coats or whatever, I don't care if it's shiny. I prefer flat, but that doesn't affect me. I'm going to speak with my mouth full here in just a second. There might be bouts of silence because I've got my mouth full. Okay, a lot of the painting that's going to go along on this is really two methods I'm going to be using. One is going to be a lot of dry brushing. I'm going to be doing quite a bit of dry brushing on this. But there are some details on this that I do want to pick out, like tires and barrels and even sandbags. I got this apple barrel khaki right here. It's actually, I've used it before. It's really good on terrain and large ticket items like this. I've even used it on individual Napoleonic or World War II figures. It's a really good paint. I mean, this one, I'm apple barrel tends to be a little thinner than or has less pigment than some other paints, but this one, I don't know what it is. This one just had because it's made by Plaid, right? And Plaid makes a lot of premium paint, but they also make some what people would say craft paint. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that are elitists, and they say, "Ooh, craft paint. Ooh, that's you're a you're a plebeian, for using a craft paint. Why don't you use that $15 Games Workshop paint, because it's better?" Well, guess what? It ain't better. I've used Games Workshop paints before. I've used P3, or I should say Citadel, Privateer. I've used Model Master, Testers. I'm looking over there at the paints that I've got on my shelf. Vallejo, Army Painter, Warlord. Even though I do believe the Warlord paints are just resurfaced Army Painter paints. I've used Tamiya. I don't know. I've been doing this a long time. And sometimes you can only find a color that you like from a certain manufacturer. Like like this khaki. I think that khaki is just awesome. I'm weird, but like black. I had this huge bottle of black. Guess what? I don't need any kind of premium Vallejo black, even though I have it over here somewhere. I don't need that. I could spend $2.99, get a huge bottle of black that I think I've had this for at least 5 years, right? And it works. Black is black, you know. White is white. Oh. Crunchy, crunchy, crunchy.
Got a trail of ants in the bathroom coming in through the floor.
Which bathroom?
Ours.
Hmm. Just visualizing that. The only place I could think of that it's happening is we have an air conditioning vent that comes up through the floor. That's the only thing that's the only part of the floor that's broken. I mean, has an opening. You know, everything else is tiled over. I don't see. So they might be coming up through the ventilation. Because under the house, little anecdotal information. Under the house, the ventilation is a piece of metal that sticks down into the crawl space, and then the ducting is over it. Are they coming up through the air ventilation?
They're coming through the vent, yeah. They were all over the bathroom. Never seen that before.
Yeah.
Probably because it's wet out there.
Okay. So we'll get in there. What I'll do is I'll put some soap around there. Wash whatever chemical trail that those ants left to follow, because you know ants like to follow their scouts' chemical trail. So I'll wash all that out, and then we don't have anything called an ant poison or anything. We could always probably get it, but I think soap should do it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this show on the road. I've had enough dilly-dallying. Okay, so last night, or was it night before last? I think it might have been last night. I uploaded a project update. What's it called? Chaos. No, chaotic? Oh, I thought it said chaos. This says chaotic. Okay, enough of that. I did a project update, and I did a big one. It's probably like an hour long, mainly because I'm probably not going to be doing another project update. Maybe until when I get these finished, I should add these to my project update. But I'm not anticipating a project update for a while, mainly because I'm over 90% finished, And I got some other things that I have to take care of. Some commissions that people are waiting on. Okay, now I thought about this last night when I brought these in from outside, and I basically got frustrated with myself. I said, man, I primed these before I took the X-Acto knife to them, because you got to get in there, trim this spare resin that's in the corners so that your bases will fit. Whoa, dude, come on now. Give me a second. Are those bases in there? Oh, yeah. So not only do I have not only do I have Flames of War bases from Battlefront, the plastic ones, but I also have some Litco ones. And so I'm going to use the Litco one as, well, let's go ahead and bring both of those up. I'm going to use the Litco one. Oh, I got a big base right here. Let's take a look at that as well. Okay. Just making room. All right. And this is the one I just worked on. Yep. Okay. So will this medium base fit in there? Ooh, no. Okay, there's like a little bitty piece of malice right there. Yeah, see, I should have done this before I primed it. I wonder, are these wood bases bigger than Flames of War bases? I thought they were exactly the same. Because these, okay, maybe not. Okay, be right back. An actual Flames of War base. Okay, let's take a look at that. Oh, look at that! Yep, this seems to be just slightly bigger. Yep. Wow. You got this millimeter of a wood edge right on the edge. Man, I didn't know that. Okay, I bet you all of them are just slightly bigger. But that's all right. We'll just use this one to measure. Now, I was thinking about this. If this is a super heavy artillery piece or whatever, large base, it looks like it's going to fit the same width. Okay. So, I don't want to organize this. See, I don't want to... Okay, that guy's done. Okay, it's got a little bit of the... this is okay that I'm cutting that off because I'm gonna paint that anyway, you know, so I'm not too upset about it. But last night, boy, was I furious at myself for going, you know, priming, thinking of today's show. I said, you know, I got to get these primed for today's show. And didn't even think about the cleanliness of the extra resin just hanging off of the edges. Yeah, no problem at all. That one's got extra room. Yeah, this one's pretty bad. Gonna have to clean it up. I could probably leave that resin because it's flat with the table and the figure can just sit right on top of it. But because it's so thin, I suspect it's just gonna break or peel or not look right once everything's painted. So basically we're gonna get rid of all this excess resin that came out from the mold process, it looks like. Oh wow, this whole outer edge. Okay. Now I could reprime them after I trim them. But honestly, to be honest with you guys, I don't think that's necessary. The initial primer probably wasn't even necessary. Did you see that? Yeah. I got this one light that's above me that is fickle. Okay, there's tons of room on that one. It'll come and go. Okay, there's something I wanted to do today on chat that I hadn't really done in a hot minute. Hey, Charles. And that is to ask for you gamers out there that are watching this. I'm curious to know what projects you're working on. Even if you don't have a YouTube channel or you don't upload videos or whatever, I still want to know what you're doing. I want to keep my ear to the ground. You know what I'm saying? I want, and if you're not working on anything, then that's fine too. Okay, this one feels like it's a little bit crooked. Okay, it's super tight fit, but that's okay. Most players aren't going to go and slide them in anyway. They're going to take their figures and they're just going to go poop. Okay, that doesn't fit. I will trim off ever so slightly, just little fractions of this resin. It also could be the paint. I know you say yourself, that's too thin, you know, paint's not going to cause, but it does. Sometimes, yeah, look at that. Sometimes all it is just the paint. So what I'm asking is, if you guys would like to share, you don't have to. I'm just asking if you'd like to share like what projects you're working on right now. Are you painting some models? Are you building some models? Are you working on terrain? Are you researching a battle? Are you learning a new rule set? You know, like, what are you doing? Now, in my project update, I think at the very end of my project update, I talked about an upcoming project for World War II, which is the Pegasus Bridge. I got a lot of the British models. Well, I have all the British models based for the 6 gliders. Even though, well, I don't know, maybe you don't know. There is a battle that took place on D-Day. It's disputed that they are the very first Allied troops in France. The Pathfinders would dispute this, but they might actually be. I mean, I haven't done enough research to tell you, or and the reason for that is I don't care. I don't care who is first. But I was a Pathfinder, so not in World War II, obviously, but I mean, shoot, come on, guys. But yeah, there was a battle called oh man, it's the coup de main, which basically means it was the main thrust of a specific battle. I can't remember what the battle was called. It was later called the Battle of Pegasus Bridge, and that was because the unit that attacked the bridge had patches that had a Pegasus on their unit patch, so it was called Pegasus Bridge. Now this unit attacked with 6 gliders. Basically, Delta Company, I think it was 2nd Battalion, Delta Company, reinforced by 2 platoons from Echo, maybe? And so it was a total of 6 platoons that flew in gliders and landed at this bridge. But all 6 of them were not tasked to take this one bridge. You had 3 gliders that were tasked to take the river bridge, and 3 gliders that were tasked to take the canal bridge. The canal bridge is the one that's called Pegasus Bridge. It's a very distinct looking bridge. It's got a counterbalance so that when it raises, you know, the weight of the counterbalance keeps the bridge up, because as barges go up and down the canal, you got to get past the bridge, right? Okay. So it's got this box office above the bridge that overlooks the bridge and the canal, and has the controls for raising and lowering the bridge and everything. And it basically just looks very distinct. You don't see a bridge that looks like that bridge anywhere else. And if you do, it's not famous, right? Not like this one. And so in the battle, which was just a few minutes after midnight, the glider pilots, the ones that were tasked to go after the canal bridge, recognized it. It was very distinct, easily recognizable, hard to mistake, and they landed their troops within, like, I think the closest one was 47 meters away from this bridge. So in game terms, what is that? 4 inches, 5 inches away on the table. Ooh, there's a log that sticks out right here. Okay, well, I'm not cutting that off. Okay, and okay, it doesn't want. Yeah, I think it had a little nub at the end. And so they landed on target, ready to go attack. You know, and they took the bridge in less than 10 minutes. Mainly because they caught them by surprise, and you know, they rushed over the bridge and everything was taken. So that's what they anticipated, because the gliders are going to come in super quiet. Nobody's going to hear them. It's going to be basically silence. Maybe it's Dead Stick, the name of the operation. I'm trying to remember what the operation was called. Maybe it's Dead Stick. But they landed so close. Now, if it was a paratrooper drop, they would have heard the planes fly over, right? That would have put them on alert. And when the British landed, they would have been spread out, you know, a good 20, 30 meters between people. So you're looking at a 30-man drop from one glider, well, from all the gliders, would have been spread out over a couple of 100 yards. And they would have not necessarily landed where they needed to. They might be on the wrong side of the river or whatever. And then they would have to form up at a rally point. I know this because I used to be airborne. They would have to form up at a rally point in the dark. Half of your privates are going to be lost because they weren't paying attention in the briefing. Or they just don't have the brain power to understand where they're supposed to be, which unfortunately that is the case sometimes. And it would have taken them 30 minutes, maybe even more, to coordinate their attack on Pegasus Bridge, which by that time the Germans would have had their defenses up and active, and everybody would have been, it would have been an actual fight for the bridge. But by using gliders, and landing so close to the bridge, when they piled out of their gliders, they were already organized and formed up and ready to go. They were in their platoon command structures. All their support engineers and everything were with them, ready to go. So I think it was just a smart play to use gliders. And then by taking the bridge in 10 minutes, or assaulting like immediately, you only had to deal with a couple of guards that are manning the bridge, and then the guys in the garrison, you could wake them up and tell them they're prisoners of war. Yeah, so I think that was just I didn't even measure. I think that's just a smart play on the Allied side. Okay, that works. Okay, so that's the 3 that were tasked for the canal, right? The Con Canal, or whatever it's called. And the other 3 were tasked at taking the Orne River Bridge, which is not far away. I'm not going to say a mile or 2 miles or 10 miles or whatever, because I don't know. Even though I have the actual military map of Pegasus Bridge, that whole town area, and I have that map with grid squares on it and everything, tucked away somewhere. I don't remember where. It's with all my other maps. Okay, a little imperfection in this resin right here, but that's okay. Yeah, and so those glider pilots flew over and landed by that bridge, but one of the glider pilots mistook a different river bridge for the Orne River Bridge. There's an actual write-up of that glider pilot and his platoon of paratroopers and everything. They landed 10 miles away, 7 miles away, something like that, at the wrong bridge. But I'm sure there was probably a German patrol or a couple of German guards just standing guard, checking people's papers, as they cross, and concerning themselves with the French resistance and all that. And so I'm sure they were surprised to see these British paratroopers come charging over the bridge. But later, those guys realized that they're like, where's everybody else at? Why are we all alone? And then they realized they were on the wrong bridge. And so they had to make a foot trek to the correct bridge, which they did. So, I think it was 2 hours later, maybe not even 2 hours later, but it was, they rejoined their compatriots at the other 2 bridges, which they had nicknamed Ham and Jam, codenamed. So one of the bridges was called Ham, the other bridge was called Jam, and their radio message back to headquarters to let them know that both bridges were captured was Ham and Jam. And that let headquarters know that they had successfully taken the bridges. Now this paratrooper unit, the British are are very territorial. I don't know if that's a word I should be using. I don't know if that's how you do it. But like every one of their regiments and battalions and divisions and everything, they're all considered, or they're all given city names, province names, because that's where they do their conscripting. I think this goes back to the American War of Independence or whatever, but that's where they would do their recruiting or their conscripting or drafting or whatever. So like the units would actually be trained and brought up, and they would all know each other from these various provinces. Well, this unit that landed at Pegasus Bridge was a mixture of, I think it's Oxford and Buckinghamshire. I think that's right. And the unit was nicknamed the Ox and Bucks. So what is that like? So they call themselves the Ox and Bucks, and they would holler that out as like Americans might scream Currahee or Geronimo. They were yelling Ox and Bucks. Okay, that one was pretty. No, still a little too tight. Okay. So part of my point is, hey, what did you say, Charles? You're going to do all that today? That's a lot of work. Yeah, so bringing it back to gaming, knowing I want to do this battle, I don't want to do the 10 minutes of gliders hitting the ground, rushing the bridge, capturing the guys, because I feel that's all wouldn't be fun for the Germans. I don't know if you guys can all hear the neighborhood dogs are all screaming. And I don't want to do a battle as late as when Lovett gets there. Lovett is the commandos that actually hit the beach, and then they fought inland from the beach, and they get to Pegasus Bridge. I thought they got there at like 3 a.m. But somebody was telling me that the Scottish got there first, and it was dawn. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research. I mean, I've got Major Howard. I've got his book. And all the personal accounts and all that. I'm gonna have to go back through that and refresh my memory. But I also don't want to play after they get reinforced, because then it's just at that point it's just a German defeat, right? There's no need to even play it. But I would like to play the British defending the bridge or bridges, and the Germans counterattacking from the town, and there's an adjacent town where, you know, they get together and form up an attack in like battalion strength with tanks. I think that might be fun. British relying on their Piats. It'll still be night, so it'll be a night battle. So that'll be different. And the Germans would be attacking the British positions, you know, and the cafe, the Gondre Cafe, I think is what it's called. I think that might be fun for both sides. When I think of a battle, I gotta visualize, if I was playing one side or the other, would I be having a good time? You know, and the initial assault, that's not gonna be fun. I mean, it's gonna be fun for the British guys, you know. I even did this scenario many years ago at NashCon, and we played in a slightly larger scale. I think it was 20 millimeter, and I used a game called Operation Overlord, which is now called Operation World War II, and I don't even know if it's being made anymore. I still have it somewhere in the garage, I think. But it was R.A. Salvatore, you know, made a war game. Can you believe that? And it was made for Italy, and they wanted or recommended using all their Italy models, right? It was a way to sell their 1/72nd scale troops, and in their and 1/72nd scale tanks and stuff. They repackaged them, and they called the game system Alto Zero or something like that. And if the model kit had the Alto Zero logo, icon, whatever on the packaging, then you knew. Inside the box would have a card. And that card would have the stats and stuff for the vehicle in their game. Which I thought was pretty cool. I thought it was a good idea. And I was big into 1/72nd back in the day when I used to play like the old first edition Command Decision. I did all that in 1/72. Yeah. I got a lot of 1/72 scale models, a lot of them, when I was in Berlin. Got a lot of HO buildings and 1/72 scale models. I was big into command decision back then. And then I just got away from 1/72. It was just too big for the type of game that command decision was trying to portray. They were trying to portray divisional battles, or at least regimental battles, and 2 figures on a base was considered a platoon. And there was a base about this size. 2 figures on this base, this would be a platoon, and you get about 10 of those bases, and you'd have a battalion, right? Maybe 12 bases, because you'd have the mortars and whatever else. But 1/72, 2 figures, and that's supposed to be a platoon. It worked really good, but I just felt like the scale was off, if that makes sense. Command Decision's a good set of rules, or at least it was. First edition was, or maybe it was second edition I was playing, but first or second edition. It wasn't the new Test of Battle BS. I played some Test of Battle. Now, it might have been the referee that ruined it and not the game system. It might have also been my knowledge of first edition got in the way of learning the second edition, or the Test of Battle edition. So I understand that I might have misunderstood the game or whatever, but it just felt cartoony or whatever. I don't know. It might have been the scenario the guy was running, but I just wasn't into it. And I pretty much dropped out of command decision. I just said, no, I'm not doing this anymore. Let's get into something better. And I found a bunch of better games. I really shouldn't say better, because Command Decision was an awesome game. They were different, and they were scaled more appropriately. Maybe that's the way I should say it. Okay, well, those are all trimmed. No, they're not. Dang. I didn't do the big guys. Holding them for last. Okay, here we go. Any trimming needed to be done? Nope. Nope. And, yep, just a little bit. And done. Okay, those are the easy ones. Okay. Got this plastic all over my pants. Plastic resin all over it. Okay. I didn't really come into today's video with any kind of topic to discuss. That I didn't really have anything to do with that. I just wanted to make sure that I got these painted. Oh, so my point was, each platoon, or each, I have all 6 gliders, you know, just because I had enough British paratroopers to do all those. But I don't plan to use all 6. I don't know if that makes sense. I have them. If I ever decide to do both bridges on the same table, and I want to do a part where the 6th glider platoon makes it onto the table. So I have 6 ready to go. But I also wanted to do maybe some Market Garden, Arnhem battling or whatever. And luckily, well, not so luckily, but in that game, Battle Group, the one I'm basing everything for, air landing platoons are 7 men, where the paratrooper, okay, that's not true. 10 men. They're 10 men with a Bren gun taking up 3 of those men. So then you have 7, where the paratrooper, if I remember right, is... Wait, maybe they're 9. It was an odd number. It was like 1 man off. Okay, so there's the Overlord. That's 82nd. We gotta be it right here. Okay. British 6th Airborne Division on D-Day. Got airborne infantry, right? They don't have air landing. They don't talk about air landing at all, right? But this one has 10 men with a Bren. So if you take 3 out for the Bren, and then you take 2 out for command, you know, that leaves you with 5 guys. So what I plan to do is go 4, 4, and 2. Okay, so no talk about air landing. But in the Market Garden book, okay, that's Germans. British 1st Airborne Division, which these are the guys that went into Arnhem, and those are the guys that jumped at Pegasus. But at least this has an airborne platoon exactly the same as in the other book, but they've added this other page which has the air landing, and if you look, they have 7 men in a squad, not 10. So that's a Bren of 3, and then 4 men and then that's the squad. We're over here, I could do a Bren and 10, and then if I wanted to fill this squad out, I would just add a 3-man command stand. Which is what I did with these engineers. I gave them a 3-man Bren team, a 4-man engineer team, and a 3-man command team. And a flamethrower. But, okay, either way. That's not what we're here for. Okay. I want to paint the dirt on all of these, but I want to give it a, like a highlight. Okay, I'm going to use beige brown. Okay. Okay, now because these bases are textured inside and out, I don't plan to apply any texture paste or anything to them. I thought I was going to, but it doesn't look like I need to do that because they're already pre-textured. I will put some flock on there, obviously. I'm going to disguise them so that they look like they would fit on the table. Okay, I don't think that was enough. Now I'm just trying to get down in between the wood beams, just so there's not too big of a contrast between the surrounding dirt and the dirt under the planks. Oh yeah, that one looks good. Now these models are built for the desert, according to their website. These are desert emplacements, but I'm using them as European So that's why I'm painting them brown, and I'm gonna put grass on them, etc., etc., etc. Okay, that looks good. Okay, that looks fine. But I'm going to do that for all of these. Okay, that's on a wooden pallet, so I'm not going to do that. He's also on a wooden pallet. Yeah, these are not like sitting in the dirt. They're on wooden pallets. Okay. If there's any exposed resin, I'll just go ahead and put a thicker coat of this on there to disguise it. You know what I mean? Do I like that color? I think I do like that color. Okay. Now, will I be using every single one of these emplacements in my Lafayette Bridge battle? No, because the scenario only calls for 10 men in emplacements per side. Plus, the Germans get 2 mortar pits. So if one of these larger emplacements holds 3 to 4 guys, then I'm only going to be using like 3 of them, 4 of them, or more. I could, depending on how they want to put their guys in emplacements, they might use the small ones, which hold 2 to 3 guys, depending on the guys you put inside of it. Yeah, I bought these foxholes from Old Glory, thinking I was going to use them, and I decided against it. I decided to go with this method, because then I wouldn't have to swap figures out. Because with those foxholes, you know, they're little metal foxholes with half torso guys sticking out of them. And these seem to be more universal, or more not compatible. What's the word I'm looking for? these seem to be more versatile. Like I could use them in different battles at different places, and I could put any type of troop in there, not just those fixed foxhole guys. Hey Reg and Charles, would you say the figures have paint on them already? Just need to try to make them both halfway decent. Yeah. I'm with you. I've been painting some Russians in 18 millimeter. I'm starting to hate 18 millimeter. I made this epiphany or whatever last night when I was painting them. These are Napoleonic Russian Fusiliers or what do they call musketeers, or I guess they're Fusiliers. They're basically just your regular old line infantry, and I'm painting their collars and cuffs, you know, with red. And I know there's like other colors that were used on like second line troops and third line troops. They had like a series of like light blue and yellow and some other colors, but these are all first line troops. They're all commissioned for a guy, and he builds his battalions 12 figures per battalion, and he calls it the Empire method, which I played Empire. I didn't think that was the method, but then again, that was like 100 years ago, so I could be misremembering it or whatever. And it doesn't matter. I'm doing it the way he wants it done anyway. I don't care if he wanted 13 figures per battalion. That's his business. But I'm comparing them to my 28 millimeter Napoleonics that I paint, and they have as much detail as my 28 millimeters. So these guys are like, what do you call it? AB, I think is what the brand is. And they're highly detailed, but they're also extremely small. Because normally when you get that's small, you start to lose detail, and I'm okay with that, right? Specifically 15 millimeter. When I'm painting 15 millimeters, I'm not striving, yes, I'm striving to get collars and cuffs, but I'm not striving to get all the little details. But this figure has all those little details, and it's basically just taking me forever to paint these guys, mainly because they're small and because they've got a lot of detail, and there's like 120 of them. He gave me 10 battalions to paint. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to mix up another batch of paint here because this is starting to thin out. And I think I like this dark wood, dark brown color for the large logs that they've got laying. Like on that one, it's got a couple of logs laying on there. I think I'm just going to leave it this brown color. AB is what I'm paint. Love them. Want to get rid of my 28s and replace them with 18. Yes. If I was still trying to paint, or let me rephrase this. If I was still trying to play black powder, I would abandon the 28 millimeter and go with, I'd go with 15s, but I could see where the appeal of these 28s are. If I was painting them for myself, first of all, I wouldn't be painting that many at one time. That is just too many figures all at once. But I could take a 18 millimeter unit and paint it up, maybe 24 figures in a battalion or something, and it would look good. But it's I've decided I don't want larger figures. I want more figures. So I'm getting away from 28s, and that's one reason I went to 15s, is so that I could put more figures on a base, but still have the base smaller. I want more figures, not less. I don't want 12 figures in a battalion. I want 36 or 50, you know? I don't want... Give me 120 figures in one battalion. That's where I want to go. But I don't want to do 2 millimeter. Because that's just like playing with pinheads. I joke, but I am serious. I don't want to play with just drops of glue on a base. And that's what 2 millimeter is to me. $18 millimeter is a good compromise. You get smaller figures and still good detail. I just don't like painting them because it's too much detail on a small figure. That's one reason why I prefer 15s, I think. I can get away with speed painting 15s and still having them look good because it's a smaller figure. I don't know if that makes sense, but okay, this is a box with an open top and it's full of dirt. So I just went ahead and dry brushed down into the top of the box. You know, giving there some little dirt on the inside. I'm still painting everything, but basically I'm dry brushing the dirt on the bottom because I was planning, because I just figured it was I was going to work my way up. And almost everything else is going to be hand painted and not dry brushed. So I wanted to get my dry brushing out of the way. Well, actually, I think I might dry brush some sandbags. And then once those are dry brushed, then we'll go in and hand pick all the little things that need to be painted. And there are so many of these entrenchment pieces are super detailed. They got tons of little micro details on them. You got to really pay attention, you know. Okay, what do we got going on here? We got Russians can get boring. It seems no matter how many you do, there's still a load. That's true. I kind of feel the same way about French because their uniforms are almost, depending on the era that you're doing, they're all exactly the same. You know what I mean? Now, when you get to the cavalry, yeah, there's a lot of variety, but infantry, not so much. I mean, you got your grenadiers and voltigeurs, but you still have hundreds of them. But I like French because, well, partially because they're pretty much in every battle. So you need them. You got to have French. French and then some other army. Me, I went with British. I take that back. I went with Allied because not the peninsula. I went with Brunswickers and Dutch Belgians and Nassau, and that's how I get my variety out of that army. But I have switched to 15s. I just don't have any 15s painted yet. I put all my effort into this World War II project so that I could get ready for the convention. But now that this is 90% finished, I can actually branch out and maybe do some of my American War of Independence that I need to do. Hey, Clyde. Yeah, that is a lot of sandbags. And it's really not that many packages that I ordered. I did do a what's in the box for these guys. This came as 5 blister packs. Right? We got the mortar pits came as 1 blister pack. And then each of the other blister packs came with 3 mediums and 1 small. I didn't get any large. One of the reasons why I don't think I would ever use them, the large that is, because even if you have like a 100, 105, or maybe even a 155, if you have that entrenched, or if you have it based on a base, it's going to be based lengthwise, and so a medium base is the width of the large base, you know, if it was lengthwise, if that makes sense. Because like this is a large base for artillery, and it would fit in like that. So I don't need any of their large bases, because I don't think I'm ever going to put that in this way. Yeah. I don't think. Never say never. But each of their blisters was only like $7. So for $7, I got 3 of these medium emplacements and a small emplacement. And they're resin, and they're super highly detailed. When I say highly detailed, I don't mean... I mean, you can count the buttons on the jacket. That's not what I mean. I mean, I should say variety, or they've got a lot of character, because like you got these barrels, you got a wheel, you got a box, you know, you got a different box. You got a barrel. All those barrels are full of dirt, you know, so they're like oil cans, but they're full of dirt, and not, you know, they don't have a what do you call it? A top, a lid. And this is the other one. Okay. And that was another thing. These guys are very generic. They don't have anything. They have a lot of variety of what's on these bases, but they don't shoehorn you into making it a desert piece, or making it a Africa Corps piece, or making it a British 8th Army or SS, or, you know, basically you don't have a Russian helmet on any of these. You don't have like because if I had like a Russian gun leaning up against one of these bags or something, that I wouldn't be able to use that emplacement, right? It would basically, unless it was captured and brought from the east front all the way to the west front, because I'm doing west front Europe. There's not a lot of units or troops in Normandy running around with PPSHs or anything. You know what I mean? And if one of those was leaning up against this sandbag wall, I wouldn't be able to use the sandbag wall. So I appreciate them making them generic. There's no like American helmets or anything like that. And I was noticing also that German sandbags were also khaki. You know, when I was younger, you know, when I was doing a lot of my command decision stuff back in the day when I lived in Berlin and all that, I thought that all American sandbags were OD green. And I have learned since then that they are not. Modern, like Vietnam era sandbags are, but World War II and Korea, they were not. They were khaki. Okay. Really like that position for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, I'm sitting here concentrating, but this is really a non-concentration skill. All I'm doing is just hitting the dirt with this brown. The lower edge of the these pieces, and when I trimmed the excess resin off and it exposed the resin, I'm basically just going in and touching up those areas, like right through here, with a little bit of extra, you know, less dry brush, more just painting it on. Plus, once all of these are done, I do plan to put a wash on them again as well. Probably a dark brown wash. Okay, now I'm just going over real quick to see if any of these oil drums have a open top with rocks or something on the inside, and if they do, I should have hit them up when I did the first path. Okay. This is an open box right here with dirt on the inside. It's basically a box full of dirt. Okay, it looks like that one was open as well. That one's closed. Okay. Open boxes? Nope. There's an open box. that open box I'd already filled. Okay. Oh, yeah, this has got a lot. I just skimmed right over that. Yeah, I think this is the one that I've got 3 of. That's these 3 right there. Oh, open box, all right. These barrels look like they're full of dirt. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you might miss something, so just go back over and double check your work, basically is what I'm doing. And it won't really matter, because when I go in and I individually paint things, I might find something I missed and then just correct it. Okay, like these. These barrels look like they're full of dirt. And I'm not trying to 100% coat. I'm trying to give it a little bit of a dry brush. Basically just change the color slightly. All right, I guess I'm gonna have to do that on all the barrels. trying to make the dirt look a little bit more like brown and a little bit less like gray. Because I think with this super thin dry brush that I did originally, it made it look kind of gray. So I'm giving it a second dry brush. Okay. All right, last one. Let's do these barrels. The tops of the barrels have dirt in them. And the barrels are positioned as supports for the sandbag wall, you know. All right, so let's give the inside a second coat of dry brushing. Down in between wood planks. And finally, I think I'm running out of paint, which is a good sign. That means I put the right amount of paint in my tub. And again, this is all going to be flocked as well. It's probably not all going to happen today because of time constraints. Let's clean this one off a little bit. Get that soaked just a second. Okay, if this was like a 57 anti-tank gun or a 75mm howitzer, it would fit in there perfectly. If it was a mortar or a machine gun, it would fit in there perfectly. So yeah, I can't stress this enough. I like these. Okay, next color is going to be beige. I'm sorry, it's going to be khaki, and it's going to be the sandbags. Yeah, that's good. I'm talking with my mouth full. Speaking of 10mm, I have pretty much all of Waterloo based like 24 figures per battalion for Waterloo in 10mm. I painted 2 units and realized I did a second, the second Dutch Lancers, and I did a Dutch-Belgian militia unit. Actually, the Dutch-Belgian militia unit, I think I did like 40 figures. I think I did 4 bases of 10 figures per base. 2 ranks of 5 basically, and you know, it's a base about that big. There was 5 across, 5 across, and I made 4 bases. They look great. The problem that I came with 10 millimeter is there are no flags. None of the good flag companies make flags for 10 millimeter. Okay, I've already done that. Yes, I can find British and I can find French, and they, at that scale, they look kind of generic. You can't really read them or anything, so that's fine. But there's no Dutch Belgians, there's no Brunswick, or, you know, there's very few flags out there for 10 millimeter. And plus, painting them, I just didn't enjoy it. It just, I paint for fun, not for, I don't know, painting brings me joy, and painting 10 millimeter did not bring me joy. So I decided to go with 15s. I can find every flag I need, which I already have, in 15s. I can find every troop type. I can find every cavalry type. I can find every general. I can find everything in 15s. Even 28s, you can't find everything. 15s is just more prolific. Okay, this might be just a little bit too much water in this one. I might have squeezed a little bit too much water. So we might go with just an extra drop of khaki, which I'm sure I'm going to need it anyway because of so many sandbags. Looks like they're having fun in the kitchen. So my wife's in this club called the Society for Creative Anachronisms. I used to be a big fighter and you know, proponent for, you know, heavy weapons and stuff, but I pretty much got out of it. I ran into some politics that I just didn't want to deal with. Gave up, quit basically, because I would go to these get-togethers and there would be people there that would bother me, harass me. Okay, probably should be using a smaller dry brush for this. Right now I'm just wet brushing the top row. This is not really a dry brush technique, this is just wet brushing the top row. It's, oh, you can't see what I'm doing. And she still goes to these events, and there's one this weekend, and I think she promised to cook them some meal, and so she's doing a lot of the cooking at home, and we'll take it with her to the event. think I'm using a brush that might be a little bit too big for these sandbags. There's going to be multiple layers of paint on these sandbags. There's going to be like the initial dry brush of the entire of all the sandbags, and then I'm going to go in later and basically put an individual layer of paint on the on each individual sandbag's top. Right now I'm just hitting the tops of the sandbags. Okay, that's a drum. That needs to be painted separately. And this is all from one dip in the paint. All it's doing is lightening the sandbags so that when I go back over them in just a minute, they'll stay bright. And by doing a dry brush like this, stiff bristle brush, you can actually see the brush strokes on the sandbags. But that's intentional because the sandbags were kind of a burlap. And I want to see texture on my sandbags. Okay, I think I'm running out of paint. Okay, our mail has just arrived, which usually means it's almost time for the show to stop. Yep, it's already 1 o'clock. I'm expecting to get some dice. I ordered some 82nd dice and some Fallschirmjäger and 6th. Yeah, I think it's 6th para. Guess you heard the mailman too, because she went out. Yeah, so my point is she's in the SCA, Society for Creative Anachronisms, and she promised to make them some food. So she's been cooking every day, getting ready, because she's cooking for like 200 people or something like that. There was a big event. I think this event is called Iris Fair, which it's kind of a mercantile event where people go and they show off their stuff, but they also like go to classes and learn. And of course, the heavy fighters will be out there banging swords. Yeah, I thought I heard him out there.
Yeah, the front door.
Okay. This one actually doesn't have a whole lot of sandbags. This one's mostly boxes and barrels. There are a few sandbags laying around. There's a tire. Boxes. Yeah. And this is the same one. Okay. Yeah, because I've got some duplicates. I ordered 2 of the desert packs, 2 of the rural packs, and then that pack. And surprisingly enough, both the desert packs were exactly the same, and both the rural packs were exactly the same. I suspected that there was going to be some variety, but there wasn't. Which I'm okay with. I'm okay with them all being perfectly exactly the same, but I just was under the impression that there was a random selection of mediums and smalls and stuff like that when you order a pack. But when I got them in, they were exactly the same. So maybe that was just luck, or maybe they are exactly the same all the time. I can't answer that because I don't know. Ooh, now this one's logs and sandbags. And again, I'm just hitting the tops of all the sandbags right now. I'll go back in later. I'm going to go back in later with a smaller dry brush and hit all of the sides, which on this one I probably could because it's much larger. I could probably use this large brush. Couple of loose bags there. Yeah, now that's just the first pass. It's going to require probably a couple more passes to get the color to be just right. All right, before I move on, I want to go get those packages and open them up. Okay, these both came from the exact same place, Little Big Wars. Okay. 6 airborne dice. Okay. I am not going to do a what's in the box for this dice set. There was a staple holding the blister closed and I just tore through it. Okay, green and white pips. These are good. These dice feel good. They're a little bit larger than my tiny dice. These are like mid-sized dice, rounded edges. And they've got the Pegasus for Pegasus Bridge, you know, the 6th Airborne. Okay. Very cool. And then this is a box for some reason. I thought this was going to be dice, but if it's more dice, why wouldn't they put it in a package like that? I know I cut this. Okay. Am I supposed to just lift this up off the top? Oh, I am. Okay. Okay. Bases, not dice. Bases. Okay. And this is a good box for a shipping set. Okay, now this is a mixed base. 24 bases. Okay. But I get mediums, I get larges. Okay, 3 larges, 18 mediums, and 6 smalls. And the only reason why I would need these bases, and the reason why I ordered these bases, is because I've got other miniatures like Old Glory or Plastic Soldier or Forged in Battle or whatever, and I'm going to need bases for them because they don't come with bases. Okay. Still waiting for my 82nd and my Fallschirmjäger dice, but these look good. All right, guys. Well, that's where we're going to end it. I'm going to continue on painting these for the rest of the day, and if I get them finished, maybe I'll do an update tonight, let you know